I mean, he's so blatantly stupid. He's a punk, he's a dog, he's a pig, he's a con, a bullshit artist, a mutt who doesn't know what he's talking about, doesn't do his homework, doesn't care, thinks he's gaming society, doesn't pay his taxes. He's an idiot. Colin Powell said it best. He's a national disaster. He's an embarrassment to this country.
But you got to try to think of who he is. And I've said this countless times, like, to me, Trump was someone who, he's always searching for a stronger, better word, and he never finds it. So whenever you do Trump, sit there and go, these people, they're great people, they're fantastic people, and I just want to say working with them was... And then he goes, a fantastic experience.
Trump's presidency plays out like an endless comedy act. But Robert De Niro and Alec Baldwin don't just laugh at it, they tear it apart with the sharpness of veterans who've witnessed every kind of performance, brilliant or disastrous, and can spot a fraud instantly. To them, Trump isn't a leader at all, but a clumsy actor who stumbled into the wrong audition, forgot his lines, and then declared himself the star. Together, they roast him until nothing is left.
In all fairness to the former president, is that true? Do you have to use a teleprompter when speaking about President Trump? Or are you able to just kind of riff on your thoughts on him?
He's so stupid.
Hello, and thank you for coming. I'd like to start by answering the question that's on everyone's mind. Yes, this is real life. This is really happening. On January 20th, I, Donald J. Trump, will become the 45th President of the United States. And then 2 months later, Mike Pence will become the 46th. I am so excited to live in the White House. I'm even going to have a little pet, like all the presidents do. Bill Clinton had socks, Barack Obama had Bo, and I'll have Paul Ryan.
If you're enjoying this video, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and hit the bell icon. Every public appearance Trump makes becomes an easy target. De Niro studies the stiff gestures, the exaggerated pauses, the forced expressions, and calls it the worst method acting experiment ever staged. Baldwin pushes the joke further, mocking how Trump's attempts at seriousness collapse into slapstick, like Charlie Chaplin being handed the nuclear codes. The result is unintentional comedy, the kind no Hollywood director would dare approve, because it would seem too far-fetched even for satire.
It makes me so angry that this country has gotten to this point, that this fool, this bozo, has wound up where he has. He talks how he wants to punch people in the face. Well, I'd like to punch him in the face. This is somebody that we want for president? I don't think so. What I care about is the direction of this country. And what I'm very, very worried about is that it might go in the wrong direction with someone like Donald Trump. If you care about your future, vote for it.
And then there's the voice. Baldwin, who built his career on sharp, controlled intensity, sees Trump's rambling delivery as a lesson in how not to hold an audience. Every tangent unravels like an improv skit gone off the rails, leaving the crowd silently begging for an intermission. De Niro likens it to bad dinner theater, the kind where the lead refuses to stop even as waiters begin clearing the tables. It's the hollow sound of authority trying desperately to convince itself it still holds power.
I mean, I'm not gay, but I cannot wait to give it to that man for 4 years. And guys, I mean, who is excited for my inauguration day? Yes, thank you to those people over there who I definitely did not pay to do that. And we have got some of the biggest performers in the world lined up. Hold on to your tits and bits because we have got 3 doors down.
De Niro wastes no time tearing into Trump's obsession with strength. He reminds us that true toughness doesn't need to be shouted or rehearsed. It shows itself through silence, restraint, and presence. Trump, on the other hand, mistakes volume for authority, which leaves Baldwin joking that he's less a president and more like a car salesman screaming about discounts nobody wanted. The humor works because the truth is obvious. A man desperate to project control while constantly watching it slip away.
America's Philistine president has had himself appointed head of one of our premier cultural institutions. He has cut funding and support to the arts, humanities, and education. And now he has announced a 100% tariff on films produced outside the U.S. Let that sink in for a minute. You can't put a price on creativity, but apparently you can put a tariff on it. Of course, this is unacceptable.
The hair becomes its own epic tale. Baldwin calls it the most dishonest wig that isn't a wig ever crafted by human vanity, a permanent monument to denial, sculpted in cheap dye and stubborn pride. He imagines it as a furry creature desperate to escape the head it's trapped on, struggling as fiercely as the country itself. The absurdity is in the energy Trump pours into defending that image, even as the world watches it unravel in real time.
Also, from America's Got Talent, we've got Jackie What's-Her-Face. And best of all, we've got the one rockette with the least money in her savings. We've also got some huge A-list actors coming like Angelina Jolie, Ryan Gosling, and Jennifer Lawrence. They will all be at my inauguration, courtesy of Madame Tussauds.
On policy, De Niro and Baldwin don't hold back. They shred Trump's wall fixation not as strategy, but as an obsession fit for a bad real estate pitch. De Niro compares it to a contractor promising a mansion but delivering a shed, while Baldwin calls it an overpriced stage prop hiding an empty set. Pure political theater. Loud, costly, and useless. His rallies get the same treatment. De Niro likens them to self-indulgent monologues no one asked for, while Baldwin mocks the forced smiles and handshakes, noting world leaders treat him like the uncle who wrecks family dinners. The cruel truth? Trump never looks like a world leader, just a guest mistaking the UN for a photo booth.
Do you really worry that if he were to win again, and I'm not saying this like it's such a far-fetched notion, if he were to win again, that he would not give up power after?
You know he won't. You know he won't. He even said it. He's never going to give it up. And anybody who deludes themselves in thinking that he is.
Then come the scandals. De Niro points to Trump's endless legal battles as proof corruption isn't a subplot, it's the whole script. Baldwin imagines a presidential calendar filled not with diplomacy, but court dates. The absurdity is staggering. A law and order president spending his time dodging the law. For comedians, it's like shooting fish in a barrel, except the fish is already flopping on stage. Social media gets roasted next. De Niro calls it the most expensive diary in history, filled with typos, rage, and half-baked threats. He also mocks Trump's obsession with numbers, crowd sizes, ratings, polls, laughing at how a president measures success in applause instead of policy. Baldwin doubles down, saying it's like an actor declaring himself the greatest because his mother clapped the loudest. The desperation is so obvious it almost stops being funny, except it never does. Finally, the economy. De Niro sums up Trump's bragging as a man taking credit for the sunrise.
Do you think our democracy is at risk in this election?
I think that it is. I always keep saying democracy is great, of course, but democracy people take for granted. It's a word that some people don't even understand. They take it for granted. It's about right and wrong, period. The guy's a monster. He is beyond wrong. It's almost like he wants to do the most horrible things that he can think of in order to get a rise out of us. I don't know what it is, but he's been doing it, and it's scary.
Are you
Excuse my French.
Baldwin piles on, mocking how Trump paraded during good times but vanished when reality hit. It's like a gambler bragging about one lucky hand while ignoring the mountain of chips already lost. The illusion works until you look closer. Climate policy becomes another target. De Niro, a longtime environmental advocate, calls Trump's denial a crime against future generations. Baldwin mocks it as a man arguing with a thermometer, sweating while insisting it isn't hot. The comedy stings because the stakes are deadly serious. Yet the White House acts like an improv troupe pretending science doesn't exist. Healthcare turns into farce. De Niro jokes about phantom replacement plans that never appeared. then points to Trump's constant cries of persecution as the behavior of a man unable to take responsibility. Baldwin describes it as the world's wealthiest victim routine, a billionaire whining life is unfair. The absurdity becomes comedy because it's so far from reality. Power dressed as fragility, leadership masquerading as grievance.
Lots of voters waiting to ask questions, but I'd like to start by tearing you a new one. Why won't you condemn white supremacy?
I do condemn it. I've always more or less condemned it.
Okay, what about QAnon?
You mean the group that thinks Democrats are a cabal of Satan-worshipping pedophiles and that I'm their messiah? I don't know anything about them at all.
The pandemic response was a goldmine. De Niro paints the daily briefings as tragic comedy, part talk show, part denial-fueled improv. Baldwin mocks the sight of a president selling disaster like faulty goods. The jokes cut deep because lives were on the line and leadership collapsed into theater. Even family dynamics weren't spared. De Niro ridicules the revolving door of relatives and loyalists, calling it the most dysfunctional casting since Hollywood nepotism. Advisors looked less like leaders and more like a laugh track audience, clapping at every stumble. The hunger for validation was so desperate it became comedy gold, a president ruling not with authority but with applause from a rented crowd. De Niro sharpens the image. Trump's presidency as an overproduced stage show where fireworks go off too early, actors forget their lines, and the set collapses before intermission. All noise, no substance. A spectacle remembered not for brilliance, but for chaos.
Shame on you.
You have compared the Trump family to a gangster family, which is something coming from you. What do you mean?
They are. Well, because he thinks he's a gangster. He does everything like a gangster. I don't think that gangsters in that world would think much of him, because there's honor among thieves. There's honor in anything. If you don't keep your word and do the right thing with people, no matter what profession you're in, you are going to get ostracized.
Baldwin twists the knife, calling Trump's presidency a bloated sequel, an overhyped box office bomb that somehow kept playing because no one knew how to pull the plug. The mockery deepens with his accomplishments. De Niro notes how every so-called achievement fades like a cheap billboard in the rain, loud at first, then gone under the lightest scrutiny. He extends the theater metaphor, describing Trump's rule as a one-man show with a cast of thousands pushed into the shadows, a spotlight addict willing to burn down the stage rather than share it. Baldwin builds on that, casting the legacy as the longest-running improv act ever staged, where the lead refuses cues, steps on every scene, and demands applause for every bad punchline. Theater with no timing, comedy with no rhythm, a farce stretched into years of governance.
Yes, you do, Mr. President.
All I do know is that they're against pedophilia, and I agree with that. If anyone's against pedophiles, it's me, the man who was close personal friends with one of the most famous pedophiles on earth. Rest in power, Jeffrey.
Okay, what about the Aryan Brotherhood?
They're very pro-family, that's all I know.
KKK?
Your car breaks down, you call Triple K.
Okay, Mr. President, just last week you tweeted that Osama bin Laden is still alive.
I didn't tweet it. It was a retweet, which is short for a really smart tweet.
Okay.
When they shift to Trump's image on the world stage, the ridicule sharpens. De Niro notes how foreign leaders treated him less like a peer and more like a spectacle, tolerating his antics the way actors endure a disruptive extra on set. Baldwin adds that America's reputation became less about strength and more about surviving the president's next unscripted stunt. Not statesmanship, but slapstick exported worldwide, leaving history to record a legacy of embarrassment. Even Trump's obsession with branding becomes comedy. De Niro jokes that his name, once plastered on towers and casinos, now stands for instability, not success. He outlines the pattern: grand proclamations with no follow-through, promises evaporating the moment the cameras shut off. Baldwin takes it further, likening him to a magician who spends the entire show boasting about a trick, then walks off stage without performing it. The legacy, they argue, isn't what he built, it's the ruins he left behind. A trail of broken spectacles leading nowhere.
I'm going to say one thing. Fuck Trump.
They also tackled Trump's addiction to validation. De Niro calls it his tragic flaw, the most powerful man in the world, unable to function without daily applause. Baldwin drives it home, describing a presidency powered by clapping, where silence itself felt like betrayal. Future historians, they suggest, won't marvel at bold leadership, but at the fragility of a man who mistook cheerleading for governance. The family dynasty gets roasted too. De Niro highlights how every relative was drafted into roles they weren't qualified for, turning the administration into a taxpayer-funded family reunion. He mocks the endless superlatives. Every plan, the greatest. Every decision, the biggest. Until words became empty props. Baldwin compares it to a salesman trying to pass off cardboard boxes as priceless antiques, shouting louder every time someone points out the fraud. The lasting legacy isn't powerful speeches, but the erosion of language itself, where exaggeration replaced truth until no one could tell the difference. By the time De Niro and Baldwin finish, Trump's image is stripped bare. What remains isn't the grandeur he craved, but the absurdity he produced. A presidency remembered not for triumphs, but pratfalls, missteps, and endless comedy material. The final punch lands hardest. Trump won't be remembered as a visionary or titan, but as a bloated performance dragged past its run. A spectacle mocked by actors who know the difference between art and accident. And no applause will ever rewrite the script he wrote for himself.